We're obsessed with the Connie Pheiff Show. It's about a lifestyle shift to move up or out.
Hey, what's your jam? What's the one thing that really drives you? What makes you unstoppable?
It's about opening a new door to live your dream.
People give up way too early on their dreams.
It's about enjoying the journey. It's about keeping it real.
Damn, now the interviewee is interviewing the interviewer. I like this.
It's all about you.
I knew there was something else I wanted to do. Stop taking shit so seriously. Y'all can do this. Take an outrageous look at life and laugh.
This is the Connie Pheiff Show.
We love your voice. We love your jam. You need to be on radio.
And now your host, Connie Pheiff.
Well, hello there, and you're listening to the Connie Pheiff Show. I'm Connie Pheiff, your unstoppable diva. And we have some amazing guests here for you today. And so we're going to get to them in just a minute, but I just want to remind y'all that we will continue our amazing, amazing giveaways. You're going to find more about them out on our social media page on Facebook and Instagram. And we're listing all of those giveaways that we have. We have autographed books and t-shirts and mugs and gift bags and, oh my gosh, you name it. We have so many amazing things that we're giving away. And today's guests also have a giveaway as well. And stay tuned. We're going to be sharing more about that in just a few minutes. But make sure that you're sharing, you're tagging the show, you're tagging the guests, and that's how you get your prizes. That's how we give them away. Because we have loyal listeners who come back time and time again. And we have people that are crediting their success to information that they're finding on the show that's been helping them grow their business, launch their business, become that leader and excel in personal and professional development. So you want to make sure you stay tuned, come back off and check us out because you don't want to miss any of that good stuff because we continue working with and keeping the passion of life activated for the world's most daring mind. So again, make sure that you're sharing, share away. So today we're going to be talking about high performance, the common sense of high performance. It's almost like an oxymoron when you think about that. So is high performance really common sense? Well, our guests today say that it is. So I want to welcome to the show Bob Dusin and Sue Bingham. They are both business transformation master coaches and culture catalysts. Bob and Sue, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So you guys are a team. Like how did this work? The both of you is working together. I know you put a book out together as well. So share more about your team experience and the whole dynamics of it.
Go ahead, Bob. How did we get together?
Yeah, how did we? Connie, I left the corporate world 13 years ago now, almost 14. And a colleague, actually the guy that I had worked for, the vice president that I reported to, had 20 or 30 years earlier worked with Sue's husband at the same company. So I never knew Sue's husband, but we had this one person in common. And he said, if you're starting your own coaching consulting business, you need to get a hold of Ken and Sue Bingham. And I did. And for the last 12 or 13 years, we've been collaborating and working together.
Wow.
Trying to create a high performance workplace. Now, Ken and Sue are the architects, creators, and founders of HPWP.
Okay.
I just kind of joined in on the fun.
Okay. Well, Sue, that was a great testimonial for you.
It was. And, the thing I would say about Bob is Bob brings so many different, unusual, and special gifts to our group. I don't know if I can go into detail, but he does improv, he does video, we've heard his voice, you can hear him. He's really excellent. And add to that, he's a wonderful writer and he really gets this stuff. So he's been a perfect partner.
Wow. Bob, you're gushing over there.
I am. I'm gonna have to turn the red tint down a little bit.
Yeah, a little blush going on. Well, that's great. It's really hard to find partners who you trust, who you can work with. And it sounds like you guys really did that right out the gate.
We really did. We have 8 or 9 other people that we collaborate with at HPWP, and it's a unique setup we have, but it's fun.
Okay. Well, just fun. So our listeners know, though, we'll let them know, what is HDWP?
HPWP.
HPWP.
HPWP is High Performance Workplace.
Okay.
And so the book is called Creating the High Performance Workplace. And you had said earlier about common sense.
Right.
The subtitle of our book is It's Not Complicated to Create a Culture of Commitment. And it's really not complicated, but it can be very difficult to do.
Well, a lot of people make it more complicated than you really need to do.
I think that's absolutely right. If we get out of our own way and just do what's right and treat people the right way, it can happen.
I mean, and that's in all aspects, really, all aspects of our life, of our workplace. A lot of times we look at things, and I have a new gal that just came on board, and we were chatting this morning, and she's like, I'm not getting it. I said, so well, tell me what you're not getting. And she was totally like looking into it so much deeper than she really needed to be. It's like, take it at face value for what it is. It's not that complicated.
Right.
It's not.
So share more about your philosophy about ridding companies of the 5%ers.
Oh, well, I'm passionate about that because those 5%ers are the reason that management doesn't trust employees in general. And those 5% are the reason that things are locked up and there's no trust and there's lots of stupid policies. So those 5%ers are a real cancer in the organization. And, did you define those 5%ers, Bob?
No, I didn't.
We want to be careful about labeling people 5%ers because, we can all have off days and so on. But the difference with a 5%er is it's someone whose motives aren't good. I mean, they're really out to get away with as much as possible, do as little as possible. They're not team players and you can't trust them.
Right.
And so these are just real bad apples, and unfortunately they exist. The good news is they're a very small portion of the organization, but the organization steered all their policies and practices around that bad apple, trying to catch them. And while they're trying to catch them, it's really interesting. That becomes just a playbook for the 5%ers to manipulate.
Right.
I used to.
They still find a way around it for sure.
Oh, they do.
I mean, whether I was in corporate, managing people, or even today managing people through my own business, it's always the people.
It is.
It's always the people.
And they, in my corporate life, we had. I worked in human resources, and those 5%ers had files that were 4 inches thick, and they were still employed.
And they are the ones that are taking up all of your time.
And they're the ones that are taking up your time. And in the result, you're not paying attention, or you're even punishing unfairly the 95% that just gets caught in a trap or has a problem or has a bad day. So we totally despise the progressive discipline policy.
Okay.
And having been a practicing HR person in California for 17 years, we were able to completely not use that.
Okay.
And we used a process that was very adult, real direct to the point, that basically left, once you've identified what the issue is, you say, what's going on?
Right.
Instead of just this monologue and then sign this paper, we try to problem solve, and we'll say, what's going on? What caused this?
Right.
And so we listen to what the employee's explanation is. We ask them again, well, how would you prevent that?
Okay.
And what would you do differently? And most people, the vast majority of people feel badly. They just screwed up. There was some circumstance. It's not that big a deal. And they'll say, oh, I can make sure this doesn't happen again. Here's what I'm going to do. and they make a commitment to that, and issue solved. That's the majority of the time. Not signing documents, not doing these progressive things.
So how does that? I just want to jump in there a minute, because how does that affect? Excuse me, high expectations to reach that high performance? Because I've been accused of having high expectations, and I do. I just do. If I'm writing that paycheck for you, I have high expectations and I expect high performance.
Yeah, and every leader should have high expectations. That's absolutely what you should have. Mm-hmm. If you have average expectations, you're going to get average performance.
You're right, right.
And
even from good people.
Even from good people. And if you have people who can, and of course, your expectations have to be reasonable, but they need to be high. They need to be a stretch. And if you have people who are continually refusing to want to meet those expectations, for whatever reasons, they may be a 5%er, they may just be a bad fit in a position. But you can't say, well, if this person can't or doesn't want to meet these expectations that I know are achievable, then we'll just accept a lower standard. You can't do that. As a leader, you have to commit to high expectations.
And I do see some people that will just commit and, assuming that that's the best that they can get. And I mean, when I was in corporate and running and being the CEO, I had high expectations and I expected high performance. And I was very fair about it. And I remember letting people go, more than one, letting people go and them saying thank you, because I really wasn't a fit here, but they couldn't walk out the door. So I helped them and I let them go. And actually now, even having my own business, I didn't let the person go. We had a very strong conversation about expectations, and within 24 hours, that person resigned. And I was like, okay, that's what I wanted.
And that's the difference, Connie, in the problem solving versus the discipline that Sue was talking about. We leave it up to the employee as to whether they want to work in the organization. It is no longer the leader or the manager's decision.
Right.
Here's the expectations.
Right.
Can you or do you want to meet them? Mm-hmm. And if not, that's fine. This just isn't the place for you to work.
Right.
And it's totally their decision.
And it makes it, like I said, and they're happier because you helped make that decision for them. And I know with this situation, it just happened with me recently. It was just last week. And I just asked some key questions about why expectations weren't being met. And the person realized, okay, you know what? I'm not right for the job. And, they left. Although as he was a contractor, but as an employer and the person hiring, that you really want to be very clear in your due diligence when you do bring somebody into the team, so you can eliminate not having so many of these conversations.
Yeah, that's a real key. I mean, we focus a lot on getting the right people in to begin with, vetting them, knowing the people you're bringing in, and once you bring them in, treat them like they're part of the family. Don't make them have to prove themselves. Assume that they're going to do the right things and they're going to be great, high-performing employees.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I had 2 people that started today, so I must be good. Right away, I was like, okay, we had a chat already this morning, and this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. And so far, so good. But it's always that, making sure you made that right decision when bringing somebody onto the team. But you still have to have those policies in place, because I don't know of any organization that could say they have totally eliminated those 5%ers.
I think we actually have. We've eliminated all policies except for one. That policy is that we expect everyone to act in the best interest of the company and their fellow team members, and that's it. Because as thinking adults, we can make those kinds of determinations.
Right.
And then with the 5%ers, raising the bar, it leads into your question about how do you get those high expectations. It's one thing to say them,
Right.
But how do you really make that real? And we'll ask a question in a workshop that says, how many of you have people who are just meeting the minimum?
Okay.
Every manager in there raises their hand.
Wow.
They've got people that are meeting the minimum.
Okay. And they admit to it.
And they admit to it. They're meeting the minimum. I mean, the minimum's there for a reason. It's meeting the minimum. But we talk about the fact that the way to get around that is you raise the minimum. And one of the really simple things to do, it has to be more than just words, but one of the simple things to do is to take a job description. In your corporate life, Connie, did you have job descriptions that ended with all other duties as assigned?
Yes.
Yes.
I admit to it.
So do most companies. I mean, every company we work with that has those, it says all duties as assigned.
Right.
Well, that's a pretty minimum expectation. So that means when I finish this long list of tasks you've given me, I wait to be told what to do next.
Right. That's pretty broad. Yeah, that's pretty broad. Exactly.
It's pervasive. And what can really make that change is one line change at the bottom of it that says that you're expected to proactively support.
Well, that's a powerful statement. Proactively support the company. So let's take a really quick break and
minimum.
Right. I'm going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk more about your book. Okay. So hang in there. We'll be right back. The Connie Pheiff Show is heard everywhere. You can find The Connie Pheiff Show on most of your favorite networks. It's time to now recognize and thank our major networks for all of their support. In the house, we have Conscious Business Radio, C-Suite Radio, Transformation Radio, iHeartRadio. We are also heard on Google Play, Apple, Radio, Stitcher, and so many more that I just can't keep up with them all. I'm Connie Pheiff, your unstoppable diva. Learn more about our gym and how we can work together at my fancy schwanky website, ConniePheiffShow.com. I'll see you over there. Until then, like, share. Now back to the show. Okay, we are back and you're listening to the Connie Pheiff Show. And today we have with us Bob and Sue. And they're talking about common sense, high performance, and how it really is common sense. So Bob and Sue, why don't you share more about your book so our listeners know what giveaway they can expect?
Bob?
Well, our book outlines what we consider the 8 elements that companies, leaders need to implement to create the highest performing work environment. And so we go through those 8 elements, and they're the 8 elements that we do a 4.5-day workshop, and we go into those elements in depth through a very experiential and interactive experience for the attendees to our workshops.
Could you give us a little teaser, like 1 or 2 of the elements?
Yes, I absolutely can. The first one, and I think one of the most critical, is positive assumptions about people. And what we mean there is that there are 2 ways of looking at the people that work in your organization. Leaders can assume that they want to achieve, that they have the best interest of the company in mind. They want to make decisions. They're smart. Then there's the more traditional way of looking at employees, in that they're just there for a paycheck. They're going to do the minimum. They don't care about the company. They're really probably not that smart. They don't want to try very hard. And leaders tend to lead in one way or the other. And by having the negative assumptions, if we assume that our employees don't really care about the company and are just there to get their basic job done and get a paycheck, they see that in our behavior as leaders. We're treating them that way. And the more we treat them that way, the more of that behavior they exhibit. If we don't ever ask them for input, if we don't ever ask them questions, they're going to assume that we don't want their information. We don't want their input or their feedback.
Okay.
And so the more we do that, we see that they're not giving input or feedback. We ask and ask them, and we engage them even less. On the other hand, if we assume they want to give feedback and want to have input and want to problem solve, we engage them in those kind of things. And the more we do that, the more they want to do it. So the spiral can go up or it can go down.
Right.
But leaders have to start with positive assumptions about people. And too often in traditional environments, we start with the negative and it only gets worse. Mm-hmm. And so we may not have, Sue mentioned earlier, we may not have 5%ers, but we certainly aren't getting the highest performance out of our 95%ers just because of the way that we're
thinking about them.
So let me just ask quickly. So for your workshops, so our listeners know, for your workshops, are they for the leaders of the organization, middle management? Who are the workshops for?
They're for anyone from a frontline leader to a CEO, executive, presidents, owners of companies, and middle management. It's all in between. In fact, that's one of the things that makes it really work.
Because you bring them all in the room together and they're sharing. So are they in the room from the same organization, from separate organizations? How does
we do both. We'll do internal workshops or in-house workshops where it's everyone from the same organization. And then we do some public workshops where we've got people from different companies. And people really there's positives to both of those.
Okay.
So but it's nice because you're with the same 5 people throughout the week.
And that's why I was curious, because I've done it that way myself when I was doing more group coaching and similar around leadership. And we would bring them in 4 times a year, the same group of people. And we tried, if it was within the same company, of course, we would go on site. But then we would bring in separate individuals from separate companies that would come in, and then we would work with them all through the year, that same group of individuals. And the dynamics are really strong when you do that, and they start building that bond together, and they're sharing best practices as well.
They do. It's really nice. And because much of the design is experiential, because it's one thing to say it's common sense and you ought to have positive assumptions. I mean, that sounds great. But if I've had a lifetime of having to deal with 5%ers most of the time, that's not easy for me to do.
No, it's exhausting.
One of the reasons that it's 4.5 days and it's long is we've really got to be able to let people sort of break down all those frames of reference that they have from the past and the management they've had, and really look at the workforce through a new lens. And that's got an emotional component. It's got an experiential component. We can't just, dictate it.
No, it comes out about the person, like you said, very experiential and emotional from that. So we need to keep on moving on. Let's moving on because it's time for Straight Talk. So first of all, I just want to let everybody know that our unstoppable guests today are Bob Dusin and Sue Bingham. So Bob and Sue, with Straight Talk, we ask you, what makes you unstoppable?
I can answer for me. It's passion, that people are respected and valued 24 hours a day.
And I think what in terms of HPWP and high performance, what makes me unstoppable is seeing the results that companies and leaders have when they truly engage in high performance practices. It's so common sense, but it works. And the positive stories and feedback we get from people who have positive assumptions, who set higher expectations, that just makes me want to engage with people and do it even more.
Even more. That's great. I love that. So for both of you, I mean, the business relationship itself has been a wonderful opportunity. So what is your process, Bob, for evaluating opportunities?
For evaluating opportunities with clients?
And business.
Wow, that's a good question. We feel we have a certain type of organization that fits us really well. We always say we work with companies that aren't broken. We work with companies that are already successful.
Okay.
And so that's where we look for opportunities with successful companies.
And we look for, I'm sorry to interrupt, Bob, we really look for leaders who are courageous, because it takes a certain amount of courage to do things differently.
Right.
And what we propose is very, very different from the traditional method of management and the hierarchical approach. So we look for leaders that have vision and courage. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bob.
No, that's all right. And I think along with that, leaders that already get it. They know that they could be doing things differently. They know there's got to be a better way. And when I was engaged in a very traditional organization earlier in my career, I kind of went along with things because that's the way everybody did it. But I knew that this didn't seem like the best way to go about dealing with people and with people.
Yeah, and a lot of times we find that from organizations that we have been in, myself included in that. And ironically, you really laid out the mission of the Girl Scout organization, which is building girls, but building people with courage, confidence, and character. And I mean, really, that's what you're doing. So question for you is, never have I ever, complete that sentence.
Never have I ever tolerated watching someone be abused by management.
Okay. How did that go?
Well, it leads to a little bit of adult to adult communication.
Right.
But I've usually been in roles where that was part of my job anyway. And
being HR.
Yeah. So you have the opportunity, and again, if you're operating on positive assumptions, probably just behaving in a way in which he was treated. Or she was treated.
Right. So
it's not that they're bad people.
Right.
It's that we have different expectations of leaders.
Right. So this question is for either of you or both of you. What do you believe is the world's greatest wound today? Greatest wound? Wound, yes.
Well, for me personally, nowadays, I think it's the, I don't know if it's the world's maybe, but certainly here, it's the divisiveness that we have in this country on so many fronts, political and otherwise. I think it's exacerbated and enhanced by social media, which I think social media is a great thing, but I think it's allowed for that to really infest in people and in our culture and how we treat each other. The things we talk about at HPWP go so against a lot of the things we see, how we see people acting and interacting in public and in society today. And I just think that's a huge wound that we have going on right now.
I have to totally agree with you. I think, like you said, social media just exasperates everything that's happening, that's going on. So, and it's a concern. It really is. I mean, technology is wonderful, but we need to use it a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sue, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I thought he said it perfectly.
He did. He said it perfectly. So what's next for you two? Where do you go from here? You have a book. You have successful workshops. What's next?
Well, what's next is we're working on a second book. One of the things that we found is that folks who go through the workshop come back and tell us that not only has it been extremely helpful to them in their professional lives, but it's been extremely helpful in their personal lives. We've probably collected hundreds of stories of people who've left and gone back and used some of the approaches that we've talked about with their kids or with their spouse, and as well as with their employees. So we want to talk about in this book some of the tips and things that you can do that will not only make you more effective as an employee or a leader or a manager, but things that will make you more effective as a human being outside the workplace, as a parent, as a spouse, as a friend. So that's what we're working on and trying to show that that's not complicated either.
Love it. Right. It's not complicated either. So where can our listeners find you and learn more about you and about your programs?
Our website is hpwpgroup.com, and our book is Creating the High Performance Workplace. It's available on Amazon, and we're available almost 24/7. If I don't have my phone turned down at night.
Yeah. But that's another conversation, Bob. We need to turn those phones.
That's true. That's true.
We do. Although mine is always listening. Is it the kids? Is it, it's somebody there? But I leave it in the other room, but although it's still on, I could still hear it's beeping. So anyway, that's all we got for today. Thanks for being here. Bob and Sue, you've been awesome, fabulous guests. You're welcome back anytime you'd like to come back and share more about your programs and what you're doing.
Thank you for having us.
Your books are in the mail today.
Oh, great. Awesome. Make sure they're all autographed so we get some books here and we can give them away because we love our family. We love our tribe, our members that continue following us every single week. And remember to share, and receive so many of our giveaways. I'm Connie Pheiff, and I'm a recovering executive. And we are here moving ideas forward and keeping the passion of life activated. And if you want to be seen and heard, you need to be advertising on the Connie Pheiff Show. Just visit ConniePheiffShow.com for those details. And a word from today's advertiser, who are the ladies, better known as Jade and Winona, and the We Thought Ladies. They are the publishers of the 25 hottest authors, artists, and advocates. You want to grab yourself a copy because I am in this article, this publication. I'm their centerfold, and you can get that at andwethought.com. And also remember to check out Talent Concierge at talentconcierge.co. That's where we are representing the world's most daring minds who continue to keep the passion of life activated. I'm going to leave you with this little simple yet powerful quote for today, which is: common sense is a flower that doesn't grow in everyone's garden. Author is unknown on that one. You're listening to the Connie Pheiff Show. And remember, if you like what you're hearing, share us with your friends, your colleagues, and your family, and subscribe with us on iTunes. Until next time, just keep on rocking. I'll see you then. Bye-bye. Hey, y'all, it's Connie Pheiff. Thank you for listening to the Connie Pheiff Show. Check back often. You don't want to miss any of the good stuff. If you like what you hear and would like to be a guest on the show, head over to theconniepfeifshow.com to apply. While you're there, check out our amazing advertising opportunities that will put you right in front of your perfect client. I will see you over there. Do yourself a favor this week. Activate your power and be unstoppable together.